Ooh, yeah. Cool. Living life on the edge.
Little mic test.
Oh, yeah. Living life on the edge. Oh, yeah.
Oh, city of Cleveland.
Cleveland that I live. Cleveland, the land that I live.
Not to be confused with Clevesburg. Not to be confused with Cleveland, Georgia, or Cleveland, Texas.
Oh,
Or Cleveland, Tennessee.
Or Cleveland, Tennessee. Or Cleveland, Wyoming.
Oh, it's Cleveland.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Ooh, that was a nice saucy beat.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. RedHotScott, the AI robot.
Does not compute.
I myself am, of course, Phillip McCrevice, and I'm joined by the Red Team for our journalistic expedition here.
The red team.
You want to scoot overtime bit?
Yeah.
And we also got Jsonda running double duty on the program here and also doing IT support professional activities. What's going on, gentlemen? What's, how does it go again? What's cooking good looking? What's shaking Kevin Bacon? What's up a butter cup?
It's always a surprise.
Yeah, I did think about the Roman Empire. And I thought, not much.
Well, Mercury's the Roman god of tricksters. We're goofballs, not that drunken maniacs and degenerates. Tune in weekly, or you'll be square. Miss an episode, don't you dare.
I'll drop a stunner on any motherfucker who misses out on this, and then Scott will sit there and jam guitar over them while teabagging them.
I think we're caught in last week's episode, but we're soldiering forth here because the episode's not about wrestling. And it's not about shredding. It's about Cleveland, or some people say the Cleveburg. You guys know about Cleveland?
I've heard of that.
Yeah, isn't it like somewhere that way? Or somewhere that way?
Well, here we are in the suburbs of Cleveland, down in Willoughby Town, at the snowy, cold, but inside it's nice Frank Tony's.
Yeah.
And we're drinking on some $2 gigantic brewskis.
Domestics.
And maybe we'll get a $5 pizza
$5
later.
pizzas.
But Cleveland is just a little bit down the road, so I guess I got to give you guys some introduction here of what the heck is going on. So first of all, everybody who's watching who enjoys the show, share the show, mother clucker. Make sure there's more people that can see our beautiful faces as we rip through Cleveland through the ages. Thanks to any of the new followers we got coming in. Our business here is, I swear one day Princess D is going to be able to ask me a question. At least one question, because that has not happened in the past several attempts. So we're going to see this time who did their homework and whose dog ate the homework this time, because we all had assignments.
Yeah.
What we're doing here is a multi-part series about Cleveland. Scott wants to press a button, but he can't yet. So how this came up is one day I just had a lightning bolt hit my brain. I was like, you know, Cleveland used to be a city of about 900,000 people, and now it's dropped down to about less than 300,000. So where did all the people go, and what happened to all the domiciles that people used to be residing in?
Wait, the overall, I'm not talking just downtown, the overall whole city, even the outskirts of the city, it's under 1 million.
All right, you're really getting it off the rails here, but we're talking about Cleveland proper, because Cleveland proper is different than Greater Cleveland, which is different than the Cleveland metro statistical area.
Yes.
Okay.
But you're jumping ahead a few episodes here.
Okay. But
I do have it written down
It used to be much bigger, and we're going to go through the reasons.
The reasons what?
We're going to go through all the reasons.
Okay.
Right.
Well, the census data, the population topped out in the 1950s at 914,000 residents of Cleveland proper, and a new recent low as of 2023 was 362,000, about 1/3.
Sure.
It's a laughing matter. So anyway, my lizard brain, when I get into a quandary, I start pulling on the string, and I keep on pulling until all of the craziness has been revealed to itself. So we had a nice little meeting this past week, and we decided we were going to make a multi-part series about it. And instead of trying to wrap our arms around the entire situation, the entire problem over hundreds of years, over dozens of different aspects, we're going to kind of attack it different ways every week until we get bored. So the first week, we decided it was going to be an introduction and infrastructure week, because the Rye guy over here said you can learn a lot about a city by looking at its infrastructure. So we're looking at 5 different dimensions of the infrastructure of the Cleveland. We got roads, canals, waterways, the airport, and Scott never picked if he wanted to do pipelines or railroads, so we'll be surprised.
So both.
Both.
Yeah. You're going to learn interesting facts like, how the city of Euclid was built on the sediment from Cleveland. Stuff like that.
Say what? No, you got to press the what button for that.
That's the what?
The what, yeah. There it is.
There
Say
it
what?
was.
All right, do you have any fun facts for us off the rip? RedHotScott or Jsonda?
About Cleveland?
About Cleveland town,
Yeah,
the land that we live.
It's funny how, a lot of the surroundings were actually built foundation-wise off of pure sediment from the city of Cleveland. That is when I seen that, I was like, oh, that might explain a few things.
Well, another one is, it's not exactly Cleveland, but Euclid, right there next to Cleveland, was the very first city in America to have a streetlight.
In America?
In America. The very first streetlight ever in America was Cleveland.
Yeah,
was
downtown
Euclid.
Willoughby?
We've talked about this before. It's not Euclid, it's Willoughby. And
It's downtown Willoughby.
It was
Right
right
around
over
the
there.
corner.
I heard it was Euclid.
I peed on that.
Wrong.
Times.
Where's the wrong button?
Right. Like this. I'll just give the what.
What? All right, we got our first false factoid. Take a sip.
I'm going to look into that because I thought it was
Right.
Euclid.
All right, well, if you look into it, you double down. You have to double your
It
sips.
was
for
right
getting
over
it
here
wrong
around the
twice.
corner. I peed there several times.
I've literally seen it with my two eyeballs. All right, so just set the scene. Cleveland, around the turn of the century, the 20th century, so the 1900s, used to be one of the richest cities in all of America.
Yeah.
And actually, it was a centrally located hub for manufacturing, steel mills. Standard Oil controlled 90% of the oil production in the entire country. Millionaires Row, you can see Millionaires Rows all around the city. We had really great, convention center. We had really great institutions such as Severance Music Hall, Art Museum, Natural History Museum. All these things that beget a city of prestige. And as time wore on, we kind of were eroding away in terms of our status. And now Cleveland ranks only in about the top 25 in terms of population. And I have heard that it ranks very highly in terms of poorest big cities in all of America. So we're trying to figure out what happened, what's the impetus, what was the motivation, who's to blame for the fall from grace, and how can we improve it over the next couple decades. So that's what we're trying to do here, and we're trying to come at it from a bunch of different dimensions.
So we're here to educate, and we're here to help Cleveland help themselves. Like in honor of Moses Cleveland. Moses Cleveland?
Oh, he was parting the Red Seas.
No. He was spelled CLEAVE.
That's right.
LAND. They dropped the A.
Cleveland.
Why did they drop the A in Moses Cleveland? Does anybody know?
You're going to have to tell us, because I don't know, unless we got the brain trust that can tell us. Why'd they drop the A in Cleveland?
Why?
Yeah.
Long on a newspaper.
Yeah.
Too long on a newspaper, huh?
Yep, you couldn't fit it all in those little, bubble dots.
Was that the Plain Dealer or the News Herald?
No, it was just some illiterate that couldn't spell. That's literally how it got named Cleveland.
Oh my God.
So we're off to a great start for Cleveland, right?
Well, speaking of illiterates who can't spell, maybe it's time for my part of the program here. Where I'm going to talk about the waterways. Now, Mr. Time Lord, make sure I don't bloviate for too long because we're trying to get a five-parter in this one episode. We each got a chunk. So if I go too long, just give me a swift kick underneath the table.
Okay.
All right. So I guess I'll ask you guys. Do you guys know anything about the waterways in Cleveland and the surrounding areas and why they were so significant in the 1800s?
Yes.
I would imagine, and again, I'm not going off facts, I would imagine the waterways, because they go really far off from the lake. They go like damn near middle of the state, sometimes further, that I would imagine when people were settling, it was a good water source.
So the waterways actually don't go that far from the lake, but we decided to dig a big trench to make it go farther away from the lake.
Yes.
So there was two very significant waterways in the 1800s. 1825, the Erie Canal was opened, and that connected Lake Erie to the Hudson River and then on to the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
And that provided a route of trade and travel, because this is before railroads, this is before the highway system. It's like, do you want horse and buggy, or do you want to have it be 10 times easier with the waterway? Mm-hmm. And then in 1832, we really got things going because the Ohio and Erie Canal connected Lake Erie to the Ohio River. So now you got Lake Erie connected to the Ohio River down through the Mississippi, going down to the Gulf of America, and then if you go the other way, then you can go the Hudson River directly over to the Atlantic Ocean.
Right.
So Cleveland became the hot white center of all these different waterways. And remember, there's no roads crisscrossing the country. There's no railroad, very few railroads. So Cleveland became a central location for iron ore coming from the Upper Peninsula. Also, they had coal coming from West Virginia. And then they had the oil fields in Pennsylvania. So Cleveland is literally the center of the world for all these different areas.
Right.
Not only that, we had abundant water from the rivers and the lake. We had abundant workforce. And so the city started growing insanely fast.
Yes, and then they had Lake Erie basically was where all the water kind of trickled down and dumped. So shipping could come in, so things could go out. And let's explain a little bit about canals so everybody clearly understands that. When they build these man-made canals, most of the boats were pulled, not with motors because they didn't have them at the time. They were pulled by horse and buggy and such, and like horses and stuff on each side, and they were literally pushed and forced down the canals and rivers because they were so heavy with trade routes. So that's why they had to manufacture easier ways to get things to and fro, I guess is the best way to explain.
So that was called the towpath, because they would literally have beasts of burden, not us, but literal animals that would pull the boats along the river or the canal. But they were getting the buoyancy, so they could load these things up with thousands, millions of pounds of stuff.
Right, and they used gravity up and down, like and then they pushed because the main draining point was Lake Erie.
No, we're not at Lake Erie yet, but I wanted to say that, highlight the importance of this, because you're floating something down a canal, you think, okay, who cares? But the alternative, if you wanted to get a barrel of oil from the oil field to its destination, you would load it up on, a covered wagon or put it on, the back of, a horse. And they have to go individually, barrel by barrel, and walk it across the land. So once you get floating on water, it becomes, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 times more efficient. So that's what made Ohio and Cleveland specifically great at that time. So that's why our waterways were so important up until 1861, I believe it was. 1861 is when the railroads took over.
Railroads,
yeah. So the heyday was between 1832 and 1861. It might seem like ancient history, but that kicked off the big boom in Cleveland.
Yes.
Lake Erie, you can have major ship traffic going all around. But in addition, it was very centrally located for all the different raw materials that you could need. But the what's called externality, the bad part of the equation is, I'm not sure if you guys can see this picture here, the river became extremely polluted. And this picture here just depicts people who were done with their vehicle and they wanted to get rid of it, so they basically just drove it into the river to dispose of it.
Yes.
Kind of insane. So, this brings us into the Burning River disaster.
All right.
And everybody knows that the Cuyahoga River caught fire.
Yeah.
But if you haven't read it already, do you know how many times the Cuyahoga River caught fire?
Oh, I know one major one, but
All right, brain trust. How many times did the Cuyahoga River catch fire? 2? You more than two? You're just gonna go. You're just gonna go with the Price is Right. More than $2. All right, we got two. We got more than two. What do you guys think over here?
Oh,
the Maniacs
I
side.
know it was several. So.
Several.
Yeah,
Half a dozen?
Small. We're talking major.
Jsonda, you got to guess. You're the last one.
Well, apparently I thought it was one, but apparently you guys saying more than two. But I'm going to go with two.
13.
Yep.
13 times the river caught fire.
Shit.
Yeah. So the river caught fire 13 times, and actually there are major river fires across the country and all around the world that had similar issues.
Yep.
And this next one here, I'm going to have somebody fact check me because this might be a factoid that I heard. That the reason why the river fire in Cleveland was so well known is because they printed it in Time magazine, the same issue with JFK on the cover because he had just been assassinated. So that's why everybody was picking up their copy of Time. They opened up because they wanted to see everything about JFK. They flipped through the magazine like, oh my God, the Cuyahoga River is catching fire. This is insane.
Isn't that fucked up, though? That
it was an ongoing story, but it brought
1969.
national recognition.
Isn't that fucked up, though, that the river's so polluted that it actually catches fire?
Yep.
That's bad. That's really fucking bad.
Well, when we get into John D. Rockefeller, there's actually an interesting tidbit that he was one of the only ones that didn't dump gasoline into the river. Before cars, there was no use for gasoline. He used it to power his operations instead of just dumping it into the river.
Yep.
So a little bit of a tidbit for maybe a couple of weeks from now, but yeah, that led to the founding of the EPA. But I have one trivia question for you guys and one more point, and then I'll let one of these other guys take over. Do you guys know there's a blob still floating out in Lake Erie?
What do you mean by blob?
Well, so the river was so polluted for so long, it was spitting all that junk, all these oils and all these different fluids out into the lake for so long. They coalesced in a big blob that's floating out like 10 miles from the coast of Cleveland. And this blob actually has been encroaching closer and closer to the water intake for the city of Cleveland over many years.
I mean, I can see that. It's got to go somewhere. Because if you go out in the middle of Lake Erie, like in between Ohio and Canada, it is so clean, so clear. But the closer you get to the coast, it just gets more disgusting. I could see that because I mean, it's got to go somewhere.
Well, we actually got somebody coming up that's going to talk about sewers soon, so hopefully he has a couple of interesting tidbits. But actually, of the Brain Trust, who's going next over here?
Makes you hungry for walleye and perch, doesn't it?
All right, so I guess Princess D will be coming next.
An alien cover. It's the alien cover.
Oh, the blob photo. Excellent. All right, so I got one trivia question for you guys, and then Princess D is going to take over.
Yeah.
Do you guys know how the city of Akron got its name?
No.
No, nothing?
No.
Rubber.
Rubber Akron? Rubber Akron. All right, I'll give you the answer here, but then I'll ask you why. Akron got its name from the Acropolis in Greece. And do you know why they would name a city in Ohio after that Greek city from ancient times?
Rubber. Hammer velvet.
I never knew that. I have no
Acropolis
idea.
means high point.
Yeah.
So Akron is actually the highest point on the Ohio and Erie Canal.
Oh, okay.
It's not the highest point of the entire state, but it's just the highest point on the canal.
I got you.
Gravity.
I didn't know that.
There you go. All right. Well,
awesome.
negative 1 point
Awesome
for both you guys.
tidbit.
So both take a drink, and then we're going to be bringing in Princess D. You guys are going to stay in for the red team, but she's going to come in and give us some more about the airport. So excuse me, let me sneak out of here. All right.
Airports. Hey, that big blob, just so you know, that's just like that's the alien cover-up thing.
I can see it happen, though, because there's so much pollution in the lake that it has to go somewhere.
Like, it's funny how the pollution collaborates together.
Thank you.
Cool.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
There, Diane, let's switch headphones real quick.
Okay.
Headphone switch. Make sure the beer don't
There
spill.
we go.
There we go.
All right.
That's the loud person one.
Yeah, it's the booming manly voice headset.
I am not a booming manly voice. Okay.
Bye.
Well, what do you guys know about Cleveland so far?
We've got a big blob in Lake Erie, and it's
Yeah.
creeping inland. And John's very worried about it. And you don't want to eat walleye and perch anymore.
I never really ate fish in general, besides shellfish.
All right. So, what do you know about the airports in Cleveland then?
I know they've been trying to shut down Burke for like ever, but when it comes to Burke, that's where most of, like, if Trump comes in town, he lands at Burke. A lot of celebrities don't go through the actual fucking main airport. They come in through Burke because it's basically private almost for the most part.
Yeah.
So
it was kind of fun. I was driving past Burke the night that they had like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions, and I was like looking at the runway, and it was so funny. It was private jet after private jet after private jet. And I was like, all right.
that's where all the celebrities fly in through.
Yeah. Which I'll get to that. So I'd started doing this research with the lens of like Cleveland's kind of rise and fall, like what happened here. And quite honestly, the airport story reflects a lot of that, what happened here. So why don't I just start?
Sure.
I'm trying to look at some of these notes. So I don't have any data about like the day-to-day traffic. But I can tell you that in 2022, they logged about 44,000 direct flights, like had 44,000 incoming direct flights to Cleveland. So the airport opened in 1925. So July 1st of this year will be 100 years of this airport. And this was a big deal because this was the first municipally owned airport, or one of the first ones in the United States. And so city planner William Hopkins, they named it after him because he was responsible for getting the funding.
Yeah.
So then World War II, the airport and then the area around it played like a huge part in the war effort.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
So they called it the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, or NACA, was the west end of the airport. It was a lab, and then eventually they got bought out by NASA. So then now we have the research center there. NASA bought it in 1958.
Yeah, what's it called? Glenn. What the fuck is it?
John Glenn Research Center?
John Glenn Research Center, right next to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they still do a lot of active work there. That center actually played a huge part in putting a man on the moon. A lot of like the lab and the experiments, yeah.
Sure did.
Yeah.
And it's like important to point out too is like it was a nice little hub for where the Wright Patterson Air Force flight was invented pretty much in the Americas in Dayton, Ohio. So it was like a nice little hub, and they did like the smaller flights there. And as the flights got bigger and bigger, they needed more stretches of land, to like. Help fund like the Hopkins and the Burke. You needed like landing spots, and like it brings up the other interesting tidbit too. Like every 5 miles of highway travel or international or state highways and federal highways, you always have to have 1 mile of straightaway on every 5 miles of roadway. Only due to the fact for emergency landings or something happens like that. So.
That's cool.
Cleveland was actually a nice little hub between like where flight actually started and like Pittsburgh and like the railroads, and you'll see it all kind of ties together. They had a nice strip, and that's why people you look at Burke, you look at it, it's like a mile. And it's there for a reason. That's why they won't take it down. And Hopkins was a nice thing, because it like was sort of on the outskirts. And going back to what John was saying, like a lot of people use the Willoughby Airport, the Richmond Airport, to fly in celebrities and stuff because it's like they could go, they could check in, and it's like non-commercial.
Not so much the Willoughby one. It's Burke. It's Burke.
Burke, yeah. And the main things when
Burke,
they can clear it, but like for other things, it's like for back that like George Bush Jr. when he did his campaigns, he landed here in Willoughby.
Okay.
Nobody really knows that, but they just do. Where they, feel best, and it's because it's easier to, to control, shut down, monitor for any activity, as opposed to using like commercial air flights. You don't have to, slow that production down. You can take us, like a less significant airport, and that's how it kind of all built. Like it stems back like Cleveland, like from back to Wright Patterson Air Force out of Dayton. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool fact.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. And like the IX Center used to build B-29 bombers, and it was so helpful because essentially they'd finish building these and then just let them go.
Yeah.
Yep. And so then, like, kind of as Cleveland like got to grow, Cleveland was the first airport or like city that had like a rail to airport train system. So like the RTA,
Yes.
like first one in the United States or like downtown. So then, kind of what's happening now?
Yeah,
with
so like
the airport? We had to follow from grace.
Yeah, real quick though, because
Yeah.
they had the shipping, which was like the waterways. They had the rail system as well as the airport system, which made it a huge major hub and attracted. Like Wick was talking about, why did you have, damn near 1 million people, 900,000 plus people there working, is because that's where all the central activity was happening, because you had major railroad, major shipping, major airport, which came a little bit later, plus major pathways, and it was all a centralized location.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the ship burned down.
Yeah, literally.
Everybody dumping their shit and getting it out.
Well, also this kind of dips into the railways a little bit.
Yeah.
When people were coming over from overseas to migrate to our country, Painesville was a main stop.
Right.
Really?
I want to say it was for the railways.
Well, it was the railway.
It was the railways.
It was a Cleveland, Ashtabula, Painesville route.
They were
from
main
Erie,
stops
Pennsylvania.
for people coming in and riding the trains to where they're going to settle, and Painesville being one of them.
Yeah.
I can't say definitively, but I would think that would play a part of.
For sure. We'll get into the part I'm going to talk about later on about railroads, because they would drop them off at New York, Ellis, and most of them were heading west. So, all right, instead of processing every here, we'll just start getting them moving down to Erie, Ashtabula, Painesville, Cleveland. So they were just getting bodies moving, because not everybody could stay in New York. Are you going east, west, south? Which direction you headed? They would just start heading them that way. So back to the airports.
Yeah. So then, well, and I guess before kind of getting to the airport, like just obviously Cleveland kind of took a downturn. We lost a lot of people. Do you know kind of like why? Because I mean, the airport directly paid a price for it, obviously, but what was it that drew people out of Cleveland and made people
several
leave?
factors.
I mean, a lot of people leave Cleveland and move south, or
The weather.
Yeah, I can't say that makes that's why, but I mean, I think that's part of it, because a lot of people born here end up down south somewhere, or like west.
And definitely, it's like why a lot of people, because the jobs started drying up. Airports made it more efficient for other cities to do business, and and they like trucking industry, when they invented the motor vehicles, like sort of took a lot away from the railway, because you could it's easier just, okay, I want to buy my truckload of goods, I don't want to wait down this stupid canal and wait for the railroad to give me my shit. Some guy will drive it in a big rig. That took a lot of work away. So it was several factors for the downfall of Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, also, common knowledge. But when you would see the old license plates, Ohio, the birthplace of aviation, because the Wright brothers were from Ohio.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
They made the very first airplane was built in Ohio.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was flown, and that's super cool.
Right.
Super cool.
Right. That airport out there, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So what's some of the reasons what you came up with why, some of the exodus from Cleveland kind of started happening? I know it has a lot to do with the airports system too, and
Yeah. And then a lot of it was Cleveland had like a huge steel industry, which we started outsourcing elsewhere for that.
Sure.
And then even though Cleveland was kind of the first in like some of these areas, they were able to, like railroads expanded, other cities got airports, other places were able to develop industry as well.
Yep.
And I mean, the weather is what it is here, but like with the invention of or with kind of advancements
Yeah.
than other, places
So went the
previously known
jobs.
as.
So went the jobs. So went the people.
Yeah.
And then less of the surrounding areas kind of started catching up to Cleveland, and then it was more efficient or more cost effective to do your business here or there, or you can get it there easier. With the expansions of like what we were talking about, those subsidiary airports, like say like for us in our region, Richmond, and you have like the Akron, you have airports in Canada. It's easier to get individualized goods, more easily transported. I just found better methods instead of having a centralized hub, which what Cleveland began as a big, nice centralized hub.
Yeah. And so kind of as everything moved.
Can I see your phone real quick?
Yeah. So now we kind of have the airport with where it is. It's still got the same big concourse that was built in the 50s. The airport used to have like a continental hub, and then I guess a United hub as well. But when those two merged in 2014, there was kind of already a lower volume of airport traffic. People weren't flying into Cleveland as much, so United pulled out, which was a big loss. And now there's just a whole empty terminal I sit and stare at every time I go to fly out. Oh, thank you.
Right.
So now, which goes back to in 2014, Cleveland had about 83,000 direct flights coming in.
What year?
2014.
Okay.
When the merger took place, and then when United pulled the hub. So now they're logging only about 44,000.
That's. I actually just had this conversation with a guy I worked the other day. He came back from vacation, and the fact that like you basically cannot take a direct flight out of Cleveland anymore.
Yeah.
Which, when I was a kid, I went to Vegas with my parents. I was in like 8th grade. Direct flight, Cleveland all the way there.
Yeah.
Now you don't, which is insane.
My family's from LA, and like, as a kid, we flew Continental because they had a direct flight from Cleveland to Los Angeles. And then for a period of time, we would fly Southwest, but then every time we wanted to fly Southwest, you'd have stopover somewhere. And then the last time I flew out to LA, I did get a direct flight, but that was like a big deal.
Yeah.
Like that I found that.
Yeah, and like usually any direct flights I could get out of here or back in is at the at the Canton Akron Airport. You have to literally go down there to get direct somewhere.
Yeah.
And because you have a better chance, but the time increments are kind of there and you pay more of a premium for it. But I think what's going to happen is like they're going to start revitalizing. They put a lot of investment that's coming into the airport area, which is going to be huge. I think it's going to reopen up a lot of the in and outs, and I think that's going to help.
Yeah. Okay. But that's what my research was saying. So they have a $3 billion plan over the next 20 years. So then that's what I have on that. And then we touched on Burke just a little bit. So Burke was open just to be like this exclusive thing. It was actually the original vision was for amphibious planes.
Okay.
And then,
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And then they built it up a little bit more. Like they had a dirt runway. They got a grant in the 50s from the Federal Airport Act to grow this airport.
Oh.
So they expanded. They built new buildings, and then they added on the aviation high school to teach high school students airport management. Which, if I saw correctly, they've reopened that high school now. So they're doing like maritime work and like trades in the airfield. So they have that, but now it's a very exclusive airport. It's high profile, hosts the annual air show.
I was gonna say, okay, that right there, real quick.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it to get to the air show because they had the air show, and they've actually had other events over the years there.
Really?
So when I was a little kid, there was open wheel racing. They had the Budweiser Grand Prix there, and it was actually they set up a racetrack on it and had these open-wheeled race cars, like basically Indy cars.
Yep.
Racing that, and that was fucking cool. So I like how they use that for like the air show every year. Obviously, is a huge event.
Yeah.
I went to it every year as a kid. It's so big. It's great. You get to see all the planes up close.
I would hate to see a Burt go away because the air show is such a big part of, and it's been such a big part of for so long of a big event in Cleveland. You know, the Blue Angels flying overhead. Like, if they got rid of that airport, that would be
Emerson,
terrible.
Fittipaldi, right? This is great times. It, you know, it's like they want to expand it. Let's make it like some lakefront tourist stuff. It ain't going anywhere. It has like military capabilities, flexibility, easy access to the city. You need that, like I said, that mile of air stretch plus. You know, it's going to be there. It ain't going anywhere. It is very useful, and you know, it is a strategic value. So, you know, your commercial hub is more the Hopkins, and then your Berkeley run is more for what it has to be. You know, the maritime, whatever you want to call it. But anything else good on airports?
I think that's pretty much like a lot of what I covered.
That's awesome
so we're
work. Yeah.
Kind of boomeranging around a little bit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we went from horse and buggy to airports. Hey.
All right, I think we're ready for a switch. Thank you, guys. Sorry.
I go. Who goes? You go. Me? We stay. I guess we stay. Whatever, Auntie.
I gotta pee.
We're cool. All right. They're not going to take Berkeley Airport away from anywhere because there might be alien activity into the lake area. And plus, if I need a flight direct in, I don't have time to land at Willoughby or Richmond.
How we doing, gentlemen?
Hey, man. Hey. What's happening?
Oh, you know,
You're going to talk about the sewers.
Here are the sewers. A very on-par subject for me,
this
you
is
know.
good stuff here.
Yeah, I had to filter through all the stuff about the alligators living down there. And,
Oh,
you know,
yeah. You got the two
troll and mole people and stuff.
Troll
but,
and mole people.
Yeah, the more you learn about it, the more you kind of
The
see
more
how...
you know, the more you grow.
Yeah. There's a lot growing down there, actually. A lot of mad stuff.
Yeah. To the sewers. To the sewers. Off to the sewers with you.
So, basically, same old story with a lot of the older cities in the United States, but Cleveland's got like an old, extremely outdated system. So what we have here is for sewage, extremely outdated. So it's a combined flow system. So that means that sewage and flow, like drainage from the waters and stuff, all goes to the same place.
Yeah.
So when you have a sewage system like that, it's like, you know, a pipe that goes down and you have a dropout for like your sewage. And when it rains or anything, like, you know, we've been having this spring, or snow, actually more like it, and all that runoff happens, it starts to pile up. And when it gets to the point where it's going to start backing up into your house, into the streets and stuff, they open up a gateway, and that floods it directly out into the lake. So all your shit, feces, diapers, whatever you flush down the toilet.
Tampons.
It's so bad even the homeless can't live in here.
Yeah.
Let's put it to you that way. It's not like the mega sewers.
Well,
yeah.
when I lived in my trailer, like 10 years ago, they started applying with the water bill or like with the fucking rent.
Yeah.
A storm runoff fee.
Yep.
That was separate from paying from the water. It was a storm runoff fee.
Isn't that fucking madness? You're paying for the...
I'm paying for it to rain.
What?
I was paying for it to fucking rain.
Got to pay for everything nowadays. Mm-hmm. Sunshine, the rain. So Cleveland's water, our water, you know, that we drink is given a grade. You know, they grade our water systems here. We got a C- right now.
I mean,
yeah, C-. So we're past.
C's get degrees, right?
Yeah.
That high?
Wow. Then we're going to be doctors soon here in Cleveland. That's why we have such great medical systems. And our sewer systems have a D+.
Yes.
So, yeah, just barely scraping by.
Makes you scared to take a shower, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, to ultimately fix this kind of problem, we need $3 billion to fix.
$3 billion.
To fix, I know, compared to the national debt, that's maybe not too much, but it's a little bit of a problem, you know?
Well, let's solicit Doge. They got some monies.
Yeah. Yeah. Doge, send us all your money to
give
fix
us
our
some
thing.
money.
Yeah.
We need a clean shower.
Money!
Money. Damn, see.
So,
And how bad is, like, the actual infrastructure? I know it's got to be effed up.
terrible.
It's gotta
Yeah,
be.
a lot
How
of
do
it
you
is
fix
still
this?
lead based.
Well, that's
too.
that's one thing. It's like
Toxins are tasty.
Yeah.
like my water at my home.
yeah.
For the most part, it's clean, like coming out of the faucet. Because I'm running out of bottled water. I'm going to drink the water.
Yeah.
For the most part,
Don't
it's clean.
drink the water, John.
You look at it, it's clear. But every once in a while, for like a few minutes, 5-10 minutes, the water comes out and it just has a stench.
Yeah.
A stench.
What does it smell like to you?
Rotten eggs.
So that's the sulfur inside of it.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's
yes.
might be a sign of like, it's not softened or anything. They
I do.
didn't-
I have hard water.
Okay. Yeah,
You want to know I have hard water? Because I clean my toilets religiously.
Oh,
And
you got
af-
the scum buildup.
And
yeah.
after every couple months, it's got that ring. I have hard water, and it's like, why is this fucking happening? This is city water, and it's hard water that's just leaving rings constantly. Not even
Yeah.
every couple months. Like my downstairs toilet. If I don't touch it for one, because I don't touch that one that much.
Yeah.
A few weeks, maybe a month, it's got that ring.
Yeah.
The longer
if
you
it's-
let it set, you got to put
so if
those
it's-
little dial things in the tank.
If it was doing that to just specific residences, what do you think it's doing to, like, the pipes in, like, Cleveland? That shit's not
What
gonna
about the
be touched.
pipes of your body?
Oh, don't drink the water. Please don't drink the water.
Yeah. So we got 4.5 billion gallons of sewer end up in Lake Erie. I think we talked about some of the algae blooms or the do not swim, kind of stuff. So
Oh, it's gotten bad every year. You
Yeah.
remember, as a kid, it wasn't as bad, but the closer it gets to, as time goes on, now it's every year. They have the signs, bacteria, like basically don't swim. You know?
yeah.
And then you have to wait. And there's certain times of year they're like there's literally signs at the beach saying just don't swim,
yep. So there's
which is insane.
multiple things that could be, the sewer, that's E. coli, that's, C. diff, that's all the other jazz that goes in with your, human diseases and so on and so forth. But so when microcystine blooms, that's a blue-green algae. So that is a neurotoxin. Liver damage and will also cause cancer, a whole host of fucking problems. Big problem here in Cleveland. But there's also a website for our sewer, our waste thing. You can look up where the city has had overflows within like the past 72, 24 hours and stuff. And just a light rain the other day, and I saw like half the city was lit up when I was looking at that.
Yeah.
Just randomly doing my thing.
Because they actually have multiple output flow channels all throughout the city of Cleveland going into the lake, and if one of those is not operating, the overflow has to go to the next and has to be compensated.
Yep.
Otherwise, it causes that gravitational pushback that we were speaking of earlier.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes a cumulative problem. And as far as the sewer systems is, not to interrupt what you're talking about, this is some good stuff. I just want to know, how well are these things maintained and clean? I don't think it's good enough.
So, a little bit of a thing I saw, like, the little sandy wipes that people have, like those little moisture wipes that you have.
That say flushable.
They're not.
Basically
flushable.
butt
They're
wipes.
not. They're
They're
not.
not.
They're
They're
not
not.
flushable. No.
They're not.
Trust me,
So
don't
this
flush
is-
anything unless it's
When
toilet
they
paper.
when they say
And
they're
your
basically they say
fecal matter.
flushable butt wipes.
Don't
Yeah.
flush
They're
anything.
not
Nope.
flushable. They will clog the shit out of your
Yes.
toilets. I've heard so many stories.
Yes.
Other cities have massive issues with that. I don't know about Cleveland specifically. I didn't get into that deep enough. But
It's bad.
it causes tons of money. I mean, honestly, they should be illegal, and we should just have bidets. That's all.
Or just take
Yeah.
or just take flushable out of it.
Yeah.
Or
Oh
just
yeah.
throw the shit in the garbage right next to you or something. Don't
Oh,
flush
yeah.
it, you know.
Well, you don't want shit sitting in your
I don't
garbage
know,
too.
it's better than fucking in
but
your water.
It's
Yeah.
they're not flushable.
No.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. So,
Bidets might be the answer.
so we got 100. We do. We've already spent $1.93 billion on our projects and stuff. Two-minute warning here, and then we've also want to make a combined 21-mile-long system that's going to help drain everything from Cleveland, take it to a facility, treat it properly,
And also comes into like, what are we doing to treat this stuff? Places in the world that have the best systems, of course, Sweden. They got the fucking best of everything.
You ever go out by out in Euclid on Lakeshore? There's a water treatment plant.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times you could drive by that at certain
It
points.
stinks like shit.
Oh my god.
Literally driving by it on Lakeshore and it smells like shit.
Yeah. Same thing for Whiskey Island, Wendy Park, Old
Yeah.
Coast Guard Station, Channel Park,
All of them.
Econo, Oldie River Yacht Club, Burning River Fest. Just constant smell.
The mouth of the
Hey, this
Chagrin
isn't-
River. I grew
yeah.
up by one, and you just smell when their fucking shit's overflowed. You know, it's like.
And you know what? This is not, Victoria, London. We don't need to be dealing with that shit.
No doubt.
Literally.
Yeah. So there's also a bunch of websites and stuff that we can check out, like a bunch of things we can do to change this, but ultimately it's going to cost a lot of money.
Yes.
But what would it do in the future? Solutions, we might have that in a future podcast, Tell us what you think out there,
Oh,
viewers.
it's coming. Oh, we got
Just-
solutions for you.
Just keeping
Yeah.
our bodies of water.
Solutions are coming.
Just
Money,
keeping
money, 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 money.
Keeping our bodies of water fucking clean is beneficial overall, not just for like what comes out of the fucking sink, but for swimming, for just a water source. Someone can go up and put the shit in, or not literally the shit, but like put the water in a clean
Right.
body of water, put it in a glass, boil it to like clean out like any
Yep.
natural contaminants.
No wonder we have to drink all day.
All right, gentlemen, we got to wrap it up. We're going to swap out. I'm going to stay right here.
Looks like Jsonda's got the hot seat.
1 second.
I'm gonna grab my beer.
Uh-huh. You stay or do I go?
Apparently I'm staying. I
Right.
have to fucking pee.
All right. If you go pee, I'll come swap out with me when I say.
No, that's all right.
All right.
I'll do it in a few minutes.
Thank you.
All right. Swap one maniac out for another.
I guess I'm in for the long haul.
Oh yeah. Let's find
All
your.
right, John, you got this one. Then you can step out afterwards.
Word, because my bladder's going. Yeah. Hey,
All right. Well, you got to tell us about roads.
I got you.
Now it's Jsonda's part of the program.
All right.
Take me home,
So
country roads.
it was so ironic because after your meeting Saturday, Nick's like, "You got roads," and I'm like, "Well, that's funny because I literally got a flat tire hitting a pothole at my work or
On a
the
road?
road by my work."
Oh.
Universe was talking to you.
Because they haven't touched that road in many years. And every day I got customers coming in complaining about it, and all they do is they pull up, they come up, after the winter they'll roll up multiple times throughout the spring, summer, fall, and just patch it. Mm-hmm. Why are they doing that? Well, for one, the road we're on has a lot of heavy businesses with a lot of shipping companies.
Big old trucks.
Trucks coming down that road all the time. So if you have, and it's not even a big road, it's a side road. It's not a main road. It's literally just has some trucking businesses on it or shipping companies. So you have a road that's not main. The wintertime comes, the road's already a disaster. The plows come down it, ruins it. They patch it, but I could be sitting at work and you could hear these trucks hitting all the bumps. It sounds like a thunderstorm going on inside work. You just hear boom, 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 boom going down the road. It's these big semi trucks.
Yeah.
Oh, one of
down
those
it.
potholes that you hit, your car feels like it's about to disintegrate. You're like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. So the problem is it's not a main road, so you focus on the main roads, but also you focus on I would say more of the higher traffic, higher touristy areas, more main areas. Obviously downtown's going to get it first. Mm-hmm. You look at the outskirts, you look at a little side road that only businesses, trucks go down.
I
to
think the
deliver.
suburbs usually have nicer roads than downtown.
Well, I'm not talking the actual I'm not talking the city street suburbs where it's residential. I'm talking roads that are mainly straight industrial or
Highly
commercial
industrial.
business, commercial and industrial business with a lot of trucks that go down it. And also it depends on the neighborhood. You know, if you got to look like the good areas, they're getting that shit easier and faster.
Well, we'll do a whole thing about demographics in a couple weeks, but I was just wondering, like, just like the current state of the Cleveland roads, but like how the industrial traffic affects the status and quality in respect to the weather and the history of the roads as well.
Well, so if you look, you drive down a road and you'll see the signs with the truck weight limits.
Yeah.
Because that typically is a
Those
street.
actually mean something?
Well, it typically is a street that they know that it's going to be high traffic for trucks.
Yeah.
Like, you know, delivery, like commercial or like, so they try to cut it down. But I mean, it like my street that I work on, it's not that long. It's Garfield Heights and it's Cleveland. A company, you know, they basically Cleveland said, we need to repave this half the road.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually standing up for Cleveland.
All right.
They repaved their.
You're on the precipice of two different municipalities.
Yeah, Cleveland. We're going to repave our half this road.
Yeah, stuck between a rock and a Cleveland.
Because it was bad. It was bad. I mean, even truck drivers were saying like this road is so bad. Like they're like scared of it causing damage to their vehicles.
Which it did.
My vehicle, but like Cleveland repaved their half.
You can actually write the city and...
I haven't paid for it.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I did write a letter to the city of Garfield Heights.
Okay.
And after I wrote it, I went back and had to take out all my 4-letter words before I sent it.
That's probably a good idea.
But, so, Cleveland repaves their half. The company goes to Garfield Heights, right, an adjacent city of Cleveland.
Yeah.
Says, we're already going to be out here repaving for their side. Cut you a deal. Garfield Heights goes, nope. So here's the city limit of Cleveland sign. Here's where the paving ends. I'm talking not a fuck. I can't even say C word here.
See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday. Not even a see you next Tuesday here. Further than that sign, it was repaved. And then all of a sudden you hit the Garfield Heights side. Boom, 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 potholes. And this is what's fucked up because it's. I know it's it seriously is an expense. It's a massive expense, but like I feel like for the look of the city for one, and also
yeah, okay, but like you're talking about one road. So how does the roads in Cleveland compare to like for example the roads in like
Virginia?
Virginia. There you go.
No, no potholes in Virginia at all.
Really?
Yep. When I lived down there, roads were fantastic.
And why is that?
Because of no plow trucks.
Exactly.
Plow trucks, no winter.
So
How does that fucking work here?
winter, Cleveland being a major city in an area that gets a hell of a lot of lake effect snow, because Cleveland's getting worse winters than the cities in the east, even though they're a cold weather climate. Cleveland's getting worse weather than almost any city in the country besides maybe Buffalo.
But it's also an effect of different things because one, the roads are starting to go down because of the plows, and the potholes are starting to crack, starting to come into surfaces,
And the salt.
You get the
freezing,
Well,
the freeze-thaw cycle.
Yes, because actually, if water gets under that road and freezes, like let's say there's a crack in the road, and water gets in there and freezes, the road will literally go like this.
Buckle it. Yep.
No,
Yeah.
there will be it'll start raising the pavement of the road wherever it freezes under.
Yeah.
So you could have a road, there's a crack, and next you know, there's a big bump because the road on one side, maybe it froze underneath the one side. Now, boom. Now you got a big bump in the road because the ice on there froze and pushed the road up.
Yeah.
So it's literally like a whole fucking trifecta of just shit that just destroys our roads, which down south, like when I lived in Virginia, all you have to worry about is just heavy trucks. You know, that's it.
Now, in terms of the economy of Cleveland, would you say that we have roads that need to be repaired a hell of a lot more than almost any other area of the country? And do you think that's a big deadweight loss on our economy because we have to pay to repair the roads very often, and there's a lot of roads that need to be repaired, and how the hell are we going to pay for it? As opposed to major cities around the country where they don't have to worry about paying billions of dollars or millions or whatever the case may be to repair their roads, so they can invest that money in other things to like provide a spark to their economy.
Well, that's part of living in the northern part of America. I guarantee if you go to Detroit or anything like that, they're going to have the same problem.
No, they don't, because they're on the other side of the lake. We have lake effect snow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We have one of the most
Well, New
the
York,
highest
okay,
precipitation.
New York.
They don't have lake effect snow
Not
there.
New York City. I'm talking about like Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo is in the same basket that we are in, yes.
Yeah, I'm talking like Buffalo, New York, shit like that. Like certain areas of New York, certain areas of Pennsylvania as well.
What do we got here? Read it out loud.
Just pull up the asphalt and redo it instead of just filling the potholes, because every time the plow goes through, it breaks the patches in the asphalt. Yes, exactly.
yes.
Exactly, SJB. Exactly. That is the problem, because every year when you have these patched holes or these patched roads and a plow goes through, there's a new pothole. Thus the fucking pothole that I blew my tire in on Friday.
Now, would you say in Cleveland that we basically are forced to build horizontally because we have to keep on repairing all these roads, so we can't as easily build vertically, because we could be building skyscrapers, but we're repatching the roads, repairing the roads, replacing the roads every year in and year out, and we could be building something great and magnificent.
A road doesn't need to be repaired every year. It can go, if maintained properly, it can go a good distance.
Yeah.
But
Road pun?
I feel like that it's a very important thing that like certain roads need to be repaired, or at least upkept enough where they're not just having to. I was outside hitting my vape at work the other day.
Yeah.
And this was literally 3 days maybe before I got my flat tire. 3 days before I got my flat tire. Earlier this week or last week, I'm hitting my vape and I watched two guys with two guys with the pickup truck with the little trailer on the back with the asphalt in it, and they just drove up, and I'm watching that shit bouncing up and down, and they're looking around, and then they stop, get out, patch it, get back in, driving. That fucker's bouncing up and down, but no holes. There's no hole there. There's just fucking
Say what?
just ship, and then just get out, patch it. Like that's.
So what is the best kind of road they can put down? Because I mean, if there's a premium quality road out there, that's the one we should be using. You know, I mean, it's got to be different technologies.
Well, okay. So here's the thing: is asphalt roads like are you typically used in residential areas for the most part.
Yeah.
They two guys, one truck. Okay.
You didn't read the whole thing. SJB coming in. John's favorite video on the internet. Two guys, one truck.
a lot of roads like the asphalt roads. Now asphalt. The difference between asphalt and cement. Cement has different gripping. Yeah. So, like, you actually have a better chance of sliding out on asphalt than you do on cement.
We know you like the grip, but you got about 30 seconds, bro. Last words on the roads?
Asphalt's a lot cheaper from what I understand.
It is.
What I understand. Yeah. But also with asphalt, when it's wet, you slide. On cement, it's wet, you grip a lot better.
Excellent.
But asphalt's a lot cheaper.
All right, we got to get Scott coming into the program.
Because I got to pee.
Alrighty. Scott's coming back in. I think we're going to.
Scotty too hotty.
We're probably going to stay in unless Diana wants to come back and can give us a scroll.
Yeah.
Give us a scroll.
Shango.
Got to go all the way down to the bottom. All the way down to the bottom.
Scrolling.
Way down.
Scrolling.
They see
like
you
how
scrolling.
I like that
They
man's
hating. There we go. We got Scott.
Catch me scrolling dirty.
Yeah.
So, first question for Scott. Did you decide whether you want to do pipelines or railroads? We never got an answer.
So you lay pipe, but you like the lay pipe, but
Right.
you like railroads as more of a.
Oh yeah. We kind of went into that a little bit. Like
You rail and you lay pipe.
how is
Okay.
the pipe has been laid for the railway and everything. So yeah, we got into a little bit of that. How like it all tied together with the shipping which came off of Lake Erie, and the canalways and the railroads, and ultimately the trucking and everything. So, yeah, we got into a little bit of the railroad and stuff, which is near and dear to my heart. I had a grandfather that retired from D&O Railroad. And
how about that?
Very interesting stuff. So, did you need me to discuss anything about that? Or
Well, yeah. So, did you want to talk about rail or pipe? Because I got a couple bullet points for each of these. If you wanted to get into a couple of these, just to give you some jumping off points.
Yeah. So we could go. I'll just kind of start with, because some of the pipelines, whether it be electrical or sewage and all that, and and there was actually pipelines for employment. So we can touch a little bit about the railroads and how it all kind of got going. Well,
yes, the rail. I was just going to ask you about the freight lines coming through northeastern Ohio, because apparently the freight line coming through northeast Ohio is the most active tracks in the nation, because it's the gateway to Chicago and further on to the west.
Sure.
And back in the 1860s, it replaced canals as the most effective means of travel. So I was wondering if you had a chance to check out anything like this, how the rail overtook the canalways.
Yeah, absolutely. And we started we started directional a little bit earlier with why the railway became so popular, because a lot of the people were come the New York area, Ellis Island, and then they came, and then one of the first railways that was to and from Cleveland was the Erie, PA, Ashtabula, Painesville, Cleveland, and that's how they started transporting bodies as well as goods, and the gravitational flow led everything through the canals, the riverways, over to Lake Erie, which was a shipping hub, and from there it contained D&O, which is basically the Baltimore, Ohio, rail system. And then they had the Pittsburgh rail system was one of the first, and from there they went all the way from Toledo to Dayton, which actually led to Chicago and stuff. And so the rail system became a very huge way of transporting, and the building structure of this. I could spend hours on how it all transpired and where it all went, but that was very, very huge. And then trucking and then airport came in.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it came in later.
Yeah.
So I guess I got a question for Rye Guy. Have you ever ridden the rail, or have you ever consumed goods that were transported by rail?
Oh, he's ridden the rail.
Consumed some goods.
Yeah, he's consumed goods.
Don't out me
Rail
here.
riding.
Come on. I told you that in private.
Some
But anyway.
taconite pellets or some coal dust.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would love to actually do some Amtrak trips around the U.S. I mean, good old-fashioned thing. It's a cool thing to go on the railroads. It's not the fastest way, but I mean, you can solve a murder mystery on a train, because
the Orient Express.
Yeah,
Well, we don't have the Orient Express around here, but what we do have is the Cuyahoga Valley National Railway.
All right.
Have you guys ever heard about this?
Oh, no, I have taken the RTA trainway.
RTA Trainway. What's
RTA,
that?
the red line. So it's like one of those elevated trains.
Rapid Transit.
Rapid Transit. So I've taken that to the airport multiple times. You park, you get on there, take it right into the airport. You don't have to pay parking fees or any of that bullshit.
Yeah, it's actually we have different types of rail coming through Cleveland. I mean, we have the terminal tower.
Oh, yeah.
That's been very famous for many years to being a very important terminal, because you have different railways coming through, but you also have the Rapid Transit. But then we also have basically a pleasure railway, which is the Cuyahoga Valley National Railway. And that one, actually, little quick tidbit, if you're riding a bicycle, they reduce the cost of you riding the railway. And back when I was riding it many years ago, they reduced it all the way down to $1 to ride the rail.
$1, because they're going that way anyway. So anything they can get on there, because you give them $1, you get them in there, and you can sell them, cheap peanuts and expensive beer and stuff. But another important thing I wanted to point about the Cleveland railway system, which gets into our overall topic of how the rise and fall of Cleveland, was the railway system was very, very, in my opinion, and a lot of people that work for them, very, very arrogant when the introduction of shipping through trucks came.
Oh.
They're like, nothing is going to replace the iron horse, the railway. Nobody's going to do that. And everybody got sick, basically, of waiting for their goods. They realized they can make more money if they just hire this truck to get the specific good off of this rail system, bring it right to their asses, in a fraction of the time, through the dirt roads and the railways. It's all tied together. And the railroad was so arrogant, fuck you, we're gonna wait, you do what we want, and like these people actually made more money, and it did the railway become, like you're more prone to repair. How long can those tracks wait? It's a very, very interesting part of like some of the Cleveland history, how the railway system actually failed through, like when the trucking took over. Nobody took trucking seriously, but it came down to the supply and demand of the goods. People were like, "We'll get this shit right off the truck.
I want it
we
now.
want our shit now. We'll pay for it." So that's what happened. And the arrogance of some of the rail systems was like, "Fuck you, you do what you want," and then there would be like a major delay or repair. Like we're waiting a month and a half for this because it's not like it is today. They had to wait, but you can get it there for 2-3 days by a truck, and it led to a lot of downfall and a lot of jobs.
Hey, 'cause the
Sounds
rail
like you're
might be-
describing the plot of Atlas Shrugged here.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then
Rand.
since getting
Okay.
back to the rail, the road system, which I was speaking of earlier, like, when you look at Dead Man's Curb, why would you put a curb that drastic in there? Was to cut off shipping and tracking. You think about it. It was like some of this stuff.
Those trucks always nail it over there.
Right, well,
Yeah, Dead Man's
or they
Curb,
go
that's very
slow,
tight.
and it's easier. You slow the traffic down because they're not going as fast. It's easier to hijack a truck and shit of that nature. So this shit all added up over the course of time, and then like the shipyards and all that. There's a lot of factors that play, and Lady Di was talking about earlier about the airports, the advent of the airport system, which actually filtered into the factor of all of where we're kind of trying to go with this. The rise and fall of Cleveland.
That's right. Well, I think I got to go see a man about a horse, so I think I'm going to bring John in.
Sure.
I think I'm going to bring John back in, and he's going to lead us to the end of the program and do any last words.
All right.
And then I'll go get
Want to get
everybody,
Diana back for the...
That's right.
Yep.
Cleveland.
How dare
At
you
least
call
we're
me
not
John? I'm
Detroit.
Jsonda.
We're not Detroit.
We're not Detroit.
Well, shout out to local comedian who came up with that one.
Oh yeah, that was a
What's
great
his name again?
I don't know.
Polk?
Yeah, we got to get
Yeah.
him. We got
to get him in
on
here.
and,
And we got Diana
have a
back
good
here.
roost and everything. But
Some last words for the
Yeah.
show. Like Cleveland, we got a lot of problems. I think
Yeah.
we got a lot of solutions is what that means.
Right.
A lot of challenges.
Did you do anything about the weather?
I did a little weather dance. I hoped it did something. I put on my my shackles, my Shastalones, and I danced outside today. Let's see if it.
That's right. And then that being
To
the
see?
weather.
Can you do that dance for everyone to see?
I'm afraid you have to be a premium subscriber to get that.
Yeah.
What is it? Only farmers? Only
$2.95
farmers?
a dance.
Only
Only farmers, right?
only
That's-
shamans. Only shamans.
That's
I'm gonna do my little shaman dance for the.
$2.95 for the
weather.
shaman dance. If you want
Yeah.
the dragon dance, that's $3.99 per minute.
Yeah, that's where I drag these nuts across the screen. So
Dragon on the screen. Yeah, but that's great with the weather too, because the weather.
Oh, okay.
It's great with the weather too, because the weather played a
we gotta get.
factor.
Hey, I gotta get last words in, man.
was my last word.
Yeah,
Dragging the shit.
yeah, $3.99 for a dragon nut.
Dragon the shaman.
$2.95 for dragon the
Two
shaman.
95.
$3.99 for dragon the nuts.
All right.
Yeah, but the weather too, that's a huge. I'll bring
Yeah.
that up because it affects each and every one of these systems. If the weather ain't cooperating, that changes the outcome and messes up
Exactly.
everything. So.
Princess D, give
Hey.
us words of wisdom for last words.
Yeah, I'll get
Last words.
my quick last words in. Thank everybody, treat everybody well. This is a great amount of topics, and you can't wait to review and expand on everything we talked about. We got areas of expertise. Everybody's been working hard on this, and we're going to start tying all this together for you. And we value and welcome your input. If anybody knows anything or has any suggestions, please let us know. And these folks will kindly let you know. And thank you for tuning in. Let's get Cleveland better because this is where we are. This is what we got.
This is it.
Thank you guys.
It'll be spring soon, guys. We're
What do you
almost
got?
there.
What do you got? Give a good last word.
It'll be summer's coming. I'm 3 weeks away from finals, so that means we're 3 weeks away from summer.
Ooh, all right.
All right. I mean, drop stunners, not drugs. Raise hell, praise Dale.
Put yours back on for a second. I got something funny.
I'm done.
Mercury Maniacs, we're not Brainiacs, now featuring the Brain Trust. Thank you for watching. Tune in next week. Miss an episode, don't you dare.